guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to be going over part 3 to a very popular story, which I first covered back in June, which is titled, My Fiancée Abandoned Me for Her Rich Greek Lover. However, the joke is on her, as he's a broke scammer. And guys, as a brief recap, as brief as I'm capable of, that's about the young guy. He's probably in his early mid-20s now. He's from Mykonos, Greece. Came over to the USA years ago for college, I think, to learn English and business school and all that. Met this gal, got serious with her, fell in love, and eventually proposed to her. And proposed the idea of not only getting married, but coming back to Greece, where his family lives in Mykonos. They do well, they own a restaurant, other businesses. They're not super rich, but they're certainly well off and comfortable, beautiful scenery, blah, blah, blah. And so after her seeing what it looked like and all that, and I'm sure it was good for Instagram pictures, she agreed to it. Came to Greece, started a new life. Well, it wasn't long before she started having suspicious behavior and disappearing, long walks on the beach, that type of thing. And eventually I know where she breaks up with this guy because she's been cheating on him with the local chatter tyrone of the island. A guy this guy is acquainted with, who has a habit of pretending he's rich to rope in American girls and tourists, and then he tosses them to the side of the road when he's done with them. Same thing with her. And obviously the guy was heartbroken, but he was done with her. And he wanted to know if he, at the end of part 1, should he warn her about this guy and blah, blah, blah. And of course, all you guys in the comment section says, no, she's her own problem. Part 2, which was a couple weeks later, is about how eventually she comes to realize he was full of crap. He's not rich, and her trying to get this guy back. And he's like, nope, no way. And I might add, he let her know that he also texted her parents, her dad, letting them know what was going on, making it aware that, okay, I'm no longer responsible for her, which is going to play a key part in this story here. And it ended with her obviously wanting to get back with him, and I said, do not take her back. She's going to come crying back to you, wanting a second chance. Don't take her back. She's trouble, she's a mess, move on. Now we're on to part 3. So 2 minutes of a recap, not bad. We're on to part 3, and let me tell you guys, this is a doozy. If you think she was nuts before, we're going to a whole new level now. In fact, this is actually a very long update, so this is actually going to be part 3 and part 4 in 2 hours, because I'm not doing this all in one freaking video here. I'll be here 45, 50 minutes. And I got to say this before I start this. Number 1, even though it's 2 parts, it's definitely worth your time. Trust me on this. And 2, a lot of guys start to become suspicious when these stories start running on to part 3s and part 4s. And I can't blame you sometimes, but this is a situation I'm definitely certain this is real. There's just so much BS going on in this guy's life. He didn't probably expect beyond part 1 to escalate. Well, it certainly has, and you're going to see that. And I'm sure a lot of you guys in your own lives have seen plenty of drama that can make a lot of these stories actually relatively believable. So that being said, we're going to jump into part 3 here. It says, hello SSM. Sorry for the delay with the update, but things escalated more than I expected. I hope the crazy parts make sense to you. There was a lot of screaming and many people reacting, and I tried my best to put in as much as I could. First, I would like to clarify something about the previous video. I thought saying she deserved karma, betting on when she'll come back, and being with an Italian woman would make it clear that I no longer care about Melissa. But there was probably a language barrier, and I failed to explain myself better. My mistake. I do not love Melissa. I stopped loving her the moment she threw everything away that we were and everything we had planned over the illusion of an upgrade. Of course, it hurts that I lost the woman I thought I would marry. I'm not a heartless bastard, but I don't want someone who is that easily swayed back in my life. Not now, not ever. No problem, bro. I didn't think you were still in love with her. I mean, understandably, you spent years with her, so it's going to be a roller coaster, but I certainly thought that you were done with her, but obviously I think you're referring to how he was texting her and texting the dad, and he was trying to make it that he was trying to clear himself of responsibility for her. That's what I got. And by the way, to show you guys, I learned shit from you guys too. I learned in the comment section from the second video that if somebody comes over to your country and you're sponsoring them, if you will, you are considered responsible for them. So he was trying to, through the text exchange with her father, make it that he's no longer responsible for her, even though I came off like he was simping. So I get that now. So To make it clear, since there's been a lot of confusion over the text, I didn't send the text because I love her. I didn't send them so I could get her back. And I especially didn't send those texts in the name of honor. This isn't Hercules. I'm just an idiot in his 20s who got whipped for the first time and had to learn the hard way. Okay. Many of us have been there. It's alright. I sent those texts for two main reasons. Melissa was spending her money like she had won the lottery, and I wanted tangible proof to show in her words that I'm not monetarily responsible for her. There you go. I had so many friends who were convinced I owed Melissa a warning about Henry because I brought her to Mykonos. I really didn't want to see how many people would expect me to financially support her once Henry was out of the picture. Well, this also shows you guys that not only I make a point of saying human behavior is the same all around the world, well, still is the same simping behavior all over the world. Because a lot of guys were saying this guy should warn her, blah, blah, blah. Why should he warn her? So there's idiot guys here in the USA, and there's idiot guys in Greece that fall for the same crap. No, this guy didn't owe her a warning at all about Henry. She chose to cheat on him. She chose to leave him. So he doesn't owe her shit. But to make it that he wasn't responsible for her financially, then I get that part. However, I now have evidence that contradicts this. I have proof that she left me for another man, and according to her and her family, our engagement is over, and I'm no longer responsible for her. Good. And that's going to be valuable down the road. And I sent those texts telling her that I love her, but I understand that she left me. That wasn't because I love her or want her back, but because I've seen how she shares messages on her social media and with her friends on different occasions. If she shares those texts, I would look like a sad loser she abandoned rather than an abusive ex. With those texts, she cannot twist any story against me, no matter how many of her texts she deletes. Well, she certainly can try. I'd rather have online strangers think I'm a sad loser than go to jail, lose my family's reputation, and screw up my life because of 10 minutes of satisfaction telling her to fuck off and die. Well, you're playing the long game here, and this will help you. I don't want to spend another dime on her and don't want her back. She can get slowly eaten by a shark for all I care. I'm just not leaving any evidence of me telling her that. Well, aren't you kind of doing that in this video? But I admit I overlooked the fact that the messages would give her the impression that it was acceptable for her to return to me regardless of her actions, or that they would give her the confidence to approach my family. I did mess up there, but there's always a learning curve in situations like these, just like I've learned to never give them chocolates. Okay, you had to learn. The update. We don't know how many days she got away with it, but Melissa broke into my house through the back door and lived there. My home is in a quiet neighborhood, so it's normal to have cameras not normal to have cameras or security around or bars in the windows. She was smart enough to not turn on the lights at night and tip off the neighbors, but she was too stupid to assume they wouldn't see the light from the TV. Like most of the town, my neighbors knew I was off the island and called the police. She broke into your home while you were gone in Italy with your bros getting over her and was dumb enough to leave the TV on. They could see it. Breaking and entering right there. At first, Melissa pretended that no one was there. When the police threatened to break down the door, she opened it and told them she was asleep. When the police asked her to leave, she told them that this was her house and she wasn't going anywhere. This is not America, honey. That escalated to threatening them to sue for trespassing over her private property. Running inside, screaming that she was being S-word assaulted, and trying to scratch the police like she did with the French woman. She was taken to the station where she was first called Henry. Henry, spoiler alert, he hung up on her and never picked her up from the station. Remember, she got into the fight with the French woman when she saw Henry, the guy that she thought was rich, with another woman. So she got into a fight at the police station, and she called her former Tyrone lover who tossed her, thinking he's going to come bail her out. The next day, my mother went to the station and asked them to give her a warning and let her go. Why? Why would your mother do that? Well, you're about to see no good deed goes unpunished to Mama here. We were not pressing charges, and she didn't want our family to be dragged into a bigger mess. Before everyone starts losing it and calling this bullshit, please understand this is not the United States. We don't have the same rules here, and most importantly, my town has less than 900 people. Here, the entire police force has around 30 people, all of whom are friends, family, and neighbors. Yeah, you all know each other. Nobody cares enough to spend time, resources, and paperwork to detain or send a desperate ex to jail over something that's stupid, especially not during peak season for tourists. At this time of the year, there's a lot of pickpocketing, stolen values at the beach, and drunk tourists doing stupid things. Who has the time for my ex's tantrums? I agree, but you could have, maybe left her in the slammer for a couple nights. That's no big deal. Melissa was let go with a warning not to set foot near my home, or this time, or she would get into legal issues. Well, let's see how that works out. We were told she sat at the station lobby and called her mother. She cried, begged, and asked her to send money to stay in a hotel. After checking her phone for an hour, she stood up and left. That's the last the police had heard of her. On my last days enjoying pasta and gelato in Italy, my phone got spammed with even more texts and calls than before. I'm not sure what happened exactly, but I think being looked at the station and Henry ignoring her made Melissa understand that her plans with him would never happen. That she was screwed and she would need to do some damage control to get back with me. Her damage control was very entertaining. What'd I tell you? And what did the hundreds of dudes in the comments section tell you in the previous video? That she's going to be coming back to you. And don't you fucking fall for it. We told you, dude. I received messages from Melissa expressing her love for me, acknowledging that we had something special. She mentioned that the idea of marriage scared her, but now she was completely sure that I was the one. Well, funny how you're now the one after Henry kicked her ass to the curb. And probably did many other things to her ass. She admitted to making a mistake, but was happy she did because it showed her that no man could ever compare to me. A mistake, huh? Hobag Handbook Chapter 3. This would only bring us closer together. She assured me that now nothing could ever break us apart. Yeah, until another rich guy comes around and woos her. I didn't respond, so she messaged me, understanding that I was hurt and wanting to see how I would feel to lose me, but that I could stop the silent treatment since she learned her lesson. Oh, now she's talking down to you. You're giving me the silent treatment. She stated that she couldn't wait for me to come back so we could talk and continue where we left off. She even gave me permission to sleep around in Italy so I could get it out of my system. She said that way we could start out our married life knowing that we had chosen each other once again. Yeah, I can tell she loves you so much that she's happy to have you sleep with other women. Yeah, okay. You see, guys, her perception of the guy here is he's such a pushover, he's such a simp that she could just sweet talk him, and eventually through various tactics she'll get him back. This is what I tell you, once you make an impression with women, good luck getting her to try to change that. It could take 30 fucking years, she'll see, and she'll still think you're the same pushover nice guy. And that's going to come back into play here. I also got texts from her friends who previously demanded to let her be with her true love, the upgrade. Now they tell me how amazing I am for understanding Melissa's need to make sure that I was the right man for her, and how they wish they could find a man as mature, understanding, and open-minded as I am. Here's a question, my man. Why aren't you blocking her? Why aren't you blocking her dumbass friends? I mean, yeah, it's all entertaining, and I appreciate the story here, but really, block them. I got text from Melissa's mom asking me things like, how is her baby doing? Telling me she misses her, but she knows she's happily planning a new chapter in her life and the love of her life. How she can't wait for the wedding and to call me her son. I got nothing from the father. Well, that's strange because wasn't the text exchange with her father pretty much telling you to leave her alone? Let her go be with this guy. What's done is done. If I recall, that was the gist of the texting conversation. This will come back later. I got text from her friend sending me screenshots of Melissa's social media where she talked about how she had a man every woman wanted, wealthy, gorgeous, and crazy in love with her. Still, she decided to leave him and that lifestyle for a better man. A remarkable man who made her feel like a million times more special than anything in the world. A man she will marry. A family man who is so special he understood the need to find herself before promising her life, body, and soul to him. Every post ended with, I love you, baby, and I can't wait to call myself your wife. Oh my God. I don't see how any of you guys out there watching this would want to ever get married after listening to enough of these stories. But the comment section was equally deranged. Her friends congratulated her for knowing where her heart lies and how they always knew we were the real deal. If anybody commented she was an idiot for leaving a man like Henry, her friends would reply things like, it's sad you think money is better than true love. You're just bitter you haven't found a man like me, etc. Oh, for God's sakes. Other commenters on how confused they were. Others laughed at her, making fun of how fast he got bored of her, ridiculed her, asking her where her forever king is. Remember in the story she was putting all this stuff on Instagram and how she found her king and the rich life, and she's going to start her own social media about meeting God. Some bullshit. Yeah, I love this is coming back to bite her in the ass. Others said they needed popcorn, and others called me an idiot if I took her back. Well, they're right. Some even said I would marry her, have 5 kids, and find out 15 years later they're not mine, and the hell that I deserve. Well, that's what would happen. If you took her back, she would keep cheating on you. Guaranteed. I never responded to anything. I told my mother I would turn off my phone, and that if she needed anything, to call Alexios. No, just block her. Honest to God, dude. The next days, my friends and I drank, partied, and kept planning different ideas on how to kick her off the island. A friend suggested an accident near shark-infested waters. But as tempting as it was, we stuck to the plans that kept my family out of more drama and myself out off the electric chair. Yeah, it's a good idea. You don't want to go the electric chair. Not worth it over this chick. Now that I'm back in Mykonos, I came back to the worst-case scenario we never planned for. I thought Melissa would ambush me at the airport or at my home, but besides the dozens of calls and texts telling me we need to talk, nothing much happened for a day and a half. That's called the calm before the storm. And holy shit, guys, this is a storm. Then it happened. Melissa arrived at my family's restaurant with her parents. So she just couldn't leave the island, huh? She has to bring mom and dad here. Let the guys get your fucking popcorn. Crack open your beer, because we're about to have some drama. Her parents had a reservation for a time when she knew I'd be at the restaurant. The reservation was made under her mother's maiden name, which my family didn't recognize as it was a common name for American tourists. What, Smith? Jones? Melissa's mother will be called Susan. Actually, they should call her mom Karen. As soon as they arrived, Daphne told Melissa, Daphne's a relative of his, Daphne told Melissa to leave as she was not welcome there. Initially, Melissa laughed it off and tried downplaying the situation as Greek humor. She introduced Daphne to her parents and asked her to tell me to come out for the lunch that I had planned for them. Oh, for crying out loud. Daphne, however, told Melissa to eat rocks and that just because I was back didn't mean that I would see her. To get the hell out away from our family. Her father went from confused to furious. He demanded that I come out and explain myself. Again, that's strange because you had the texting exchange with the father, if you all recall. Unless you weren't actually talking to her father. They had come all the way from America to meet her family, and instead of welcoming them, I was acting like an a-hole for no reason whatsoever. This just gets crazier and crazier. He doesn't know, Daphne asked Melissa, but she just looked away. Daphne burst out laughing and asked a waiter to seat them at a private table while she let me know they had arrived. Your family restaurant is not a national chain where somebody can complain to corporate if they're not being seated. You could kick them out and tell them to get the fuck out of there. But clearly one of the parents doesn't know what's going on. Daphne came into the office and told me my future family was waiting outside. She laughed as she explained that it looked like Melissa had never told her family that we had broken up and they were here thinking I planned this reservation. I said that was impossible. Her father knew and I have text to prove it. But Daphne told me the father generally looked confused and I had to go outside and get rid of them. When I arrived at the table, Melissa smiled at me and said, "See, Daddy, he's here," she said, running out of her chair and trying to hug me. I think I can speak for the group, listen to this and saying, what the fuck? Daddy, he's here. I stopped her and asked her not to touch me and sit down. She held my arm and pulled me closer, begging me to eat with them after saying that after we could go home together, have some dessert, and talk things through. Time to call the Greek police. I pulled my arm away and asked her father to respect my decision, just like I respected his when he told me to cut all contact with his daughter. He just said, "What?" Susan started talking nonsense about being tired from the trip, how the restaurant looked beautiful, and how hungry they were. Melissa pulled a chair for me and said, "Babe, we'll talk later." Please sit down and eat with us. I asked her why was her father acting like this, and he didn't know what happened. But she kept repeating, we'll talk later. Just sit down. Babe, we can talk later. Does it sound like Melissa has any respect for this guy? No. She just thinks she can boss him around. Her father looked very confused. Yeah, we're all confused just like the father here. I didn't know she had lied to him, telling him we got back together. I said I didn't know what lies Melissa told him, but after his daughter and I broke up those weeks ago, we never got back together. I clarified that just because things didn't work out with Henry does not mean she's feel free to crawl back to my family. What is happening here, and who the fuck is Henry? Her father asked. Angry, and Melissa started to cry. Of course she started to cry. To anyone who found it strange that the father texted me and said things like, let my daughter be happy, give yourself a medal. The father had no idea what was happening. Her mother sent those texts. Of course is Mommy Dearest. Mommy Dearest wants her daughter to be with a rich guy. Or, it's not like you're poor, dude. I told him, it seems like you're the only one unaware of what's been happening here. But I didn't plan this lunch. Melissa broke up with me weeks ago and moved in with a man named Henry. Now that Henry's done with your daughter, she's trying to get back with me. When I took out my phone, Melissa cried and pleaded with me to stop acting like this. We could eat and then go home and talk. This was all a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding my white ass. As I opened the chat log, Susan told me that I was making a decision in anger and advised me to take a couple of days to cool down. Bitch, shut the fuck up. You were pretending to be your husband when I was talking to him. I didn't care and offered him my phone. Because, here comes the rain, guys, but I'm not going to stop this video, so just bear with me with the this is fucking Florida in August. It's going to rain. She told me that my texts with Melissa were private and that no father wanted to know about the relationship between his daughter and her partner. She then tried to delete the text thread, but by then Melissa's father was furious, and he told him to be quiet and demanded that Susan give him my phone and sit down. About time the father laid down the law with these wackos. After reading everything, he handed me back the phone and asked, who is this man? He's a local boat cleaner who sleeps with every tourist he sees, I explained. Susan, the mother, hugged Melissa as she was giving annoying little cries. Why are those texts about Henry being in love with Melissa and planning a future together? I told her father he's known for lying about being rich and promising love and marriage to every single woman he meets. In reality, he just sleeps with them for a few weeks and then switches to the next tourist. Melissa thought he was serious about her, so she left him for me. I left me for him. With that, Melissa began sobbing. She kept mumbling words like, it was a mistake, not me, I was manipulated. But her excessive crying made it hard to understand what she was saying. You mean she went from 0 to Tusken Raider in like 3.2 seconds? The old Tusken Raider thing? Her father gave me back my phone, apologized, and glared at Susan and my ex. He told them they would talk when they got back to the hotel and left. Well, good for her dad for walking out of there. I thought they would follow him, and then that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Melissa and Susan begged me to stay and talk to them. How I would understand and forgive them once I hear their side of the story. Yeah, I told them to sit down and talk, but if they screamed or tried something with me, I would make sure they were kicked out of the restaurant. Smack! You had no reason to talk to them. Kick them out. Ay. To my surprise, Daphne arrived and sat down next to me. My mother later told me that Daphne did that so I could have a witness or if I needed help, and I agreed. That was 10% of her reason to sit with us. The remaining 90% was probably because she wanted to see the drama. Shocker. And guys, that is the part where I'm going to wrap up part 3 here and go into part 4 in 2 hours because the other part's way longer and, not going to do a 45-minute video. Not to mention, we're starting some serious goddamn rain here, and I need to, obviously it's too noisy. So when the rain stops, I'll film part 2, and obviously part 4, and I'll be publishing that in 2 hours, and you guys can see how this wraps up. We're just getting started in the drama here. This is going to a whole new level here. See you then.